What is up, guys? This is episode number 12, Overcoming Procrastination. Today, I had one of those days where I had this project that I was working on, and I don't know what it was, but I had this struggle, a real tough time getting motivated. Basically what it was is I do a lot of business development and marketing, and so I've been working on this project for a marketing campaign, and I don't know what it was, but usually I'm super pumped about this stuff, about getting the project out there in front of people. I'm one of those people where I really like seeing people interact with things that I've built or created, and so I've been working on this project, and today I just had zero motivation. For some reason, I could not seem to want to get going on this project. I kind of found myself like preoccupying myself with other things, so that way I could distract myself or make it to where I was making excuses for myself, basically, like, I'll get to it. I got to work on this project first, whatever it was. But I can, I wanted to kind of talk about procrastination for a little bit, because it hit me probably about 3/4 of the way through the day, of what I was doing to myself when I was procrastinating, and kind of how I was hurting myself as the day went on, because I was too busy making excuses for myself. I'll be real with myself, but when you procrastinate, it really kind of puts a damper on things, even though, we all know procrastination is bad, and we all put things off from time to time, or some of us do it as often as we can or whatever, or some of us, do it less than others, whatever it might be, but procrastination kind of is a dream killer a little bit, but this whole episode is dedicated to overcoming and beating procrastination. Beating procrastination is a simple matter of exiting the doom loop, is what it's called. But exiting the doom loop by taking control of your mood. Like for me, for example, of not being able to get motivated, I had to find a way to motivate myself, or to kind of re-excite myself about the project for the day, so that, of course, I could get into it and get started and complete it. But with the right strategies in place, you can take the reins and get yourself in the mood to get things done. I've had a couple days lately where I've just been so tired, and I wake up and I'm like, I really don't want to do anything today but sleep. I remember I had a lot of those days just, in high school, the typical kid, man, I'm so tired. Like, I was up till 2 o'clock playing Xbox, and now I'm worn out and exhausted. But, this is a whole different level, because when you're working on doing something that is, what you want your life to be, your career, your dream, your passion, a lot of times, if you've listened to the previous episode, you find yourself, not even keeping track of time. You find yourself doing things for, 10 hours when you only intended to do it for 5, and you forget to go to the bathroom, you forget to eat, you forget sometimes that you have these other tasks that you have to complete, but you can't, because it just spaces your mind because you're so into what it is that you're doing. But I have a couple of steps laid out that I kind of want to go over here, but I can tell you that the first step to overcoming procrastination is figure out why you're procrastinating. When you aren't in the mood to work, procrastination is telling you something important. It could be something simple, such as you need to take a break or get something to eat. If it's just you're procrastinating because you have this, subconscious feeling that you're not really consciously thinking about or actively thinking about, but like, man, I'm really hungry. I could, go out for a burger right now or something like that. Could be a form of procrastination, just because you're distracting yourself with food. It could also be something complex, such as you carrying the team on your back, or you're dissatisfied with your job. I think that for some people in their career aspect, this might be more of the case, and a lot of it is because people sell themselves on a high-paying job rather than a job that is something that they have a passion for. So, I'm not saying this is the case for everybody or a majority. I'm just saying I know that there's people personally in my life that I know that struggle with procrastination because they go to a job every day that they don't really like as much as they wish they did, because they're chasing the dollar rather than chasing their dream or their passion, which is a totally separate subject about never chasing the dollar. But that's it could be a big part of it, if you're not motivated by the job itself. Whatever it is, instead of punishing yourself for procrastinating, take a moment to reflect and figure out why you're procrastinating. Really think about it, dive into your thoughts, and kind of break it down, into steps, into little pieces, and kind of put them together or take them apart, however you want to put it. But this could be the most productive step of it, because usually once you decipher why, the rest becomes much more simple to tackle. So step number 2 would be remove the obstacles that are the procrastination. So prior to getting started on a task, take a moment to carefully consider the obstacles that might get in your way, or the obstacles that are already in your way. So from there, you'd want to develop a plan to ensure that they don't get in your way. So whatever those might be, if it is food, pack a lunch, bring some snacks with you, do something. But you need to find a way to eliminate those obstacles and those distractions from you, so that way you don't allow your mind to focus on them as you go. You might have instructions for a task, for example, and in your email inbox, and if you don't do anything about it, you'll repeatedly go back to your inbox and look at them, only to get distracted by other incoming emails. In this case, your management plan should be to get the instructions out of your inbox prior to starting your work. So instead of, to kind of break it down a little bit, just to kind of elaborate and get a better understanding on it, let's just say that, you're working on some project for work, and the owner, manager, supervisor, whoever emails you the directions, instructions, whatever it is for the particular task, the bullet points, blueprints, whatever it is, and you keep going back to that email to reference whatever those instructions are. So you have a separate tab on your computer, and you click between the 2 tabs just to reference back to it. And then you're like, oh man, I got 2 more emails. Let's read what those are. And then you find out that you just got an email from a client of yours that's requesting an invoice or something like that. And then now you have to reply to that email. Now you just distracted yourself and pulled time away from the original project that you were tasked to do. It's not saying you need to blow off that other customer, but if you print out those instructions or those directions or blueprints, whatever it is, and you focus on that first, you can give yourself some time later on after you complete that project to focus on that customer 100% rather than being distracted from both. So that could be a huge step into overcoming your procrastination. It's basically called planning ahead, but I feel like that almost sounds like a condescending term in some cases when you're like, you need to plan ahead, but that's not necessarily the case. I mean, you should always plan ahead, but it shouldn't be something where you're like, you're forcing yourself to be doing something 100% solid plan. I guess it depends on your job or your career or your dream, but I always like to remain fluid with things. I like to make sure that the projects that I take on aren't, to a degree, it depends on the project and things like that. I feel like this is going to be a slippery slope here, but certain projects I like to keep fluid, and the reason being is because I feel if I set a 100% guaranteed timeline, like it's going to be done Friday by 2:38 p.m. and it'll be in your inbox by 2:39 type of thing, I feel like those put a lot of pressure, and sometimes that could be very unnerving and kind of make you clam up and freeze up and cause you to perform at a lower level than it would be if you had the time to think freely and really get creative and focus. Like I said, it depends on the project, depends on the career, what it is that you're doing. In certain instances, when you have a set date, a set end game for a project, if it's for a client or something like that, and it's not like just get it to me whenever, it sets a timeline, and you have to kind of get the ball rolling, especially if you're a procrastinator, so like I said, it could be a slippery slope with something like that. So take that as a case-by-case basis. But the biggest thing is just to remove obstacles, print out instructions, directions, whatever it might be, take one project at a time rather than trying to consume 10 as a whole and get them all done one by one, or all together, I should say. Number 3 would be to jump right in. sometimes it's really hard to get started on something, even when it's something you love to do. Like for me, early on in my career as a business developer and a marketer, I was really big into developing and building websites for customers, and I found myself after, the first few customers, I was like, this is awesome. I love doing this. And I was always on it doing the, 10, 12, 15 hour days, building websites and developing content for those websites and whatnot. But, excuse me, I'm sorry. Then it got to a point where, I was excited about the project, but then I lost the motivation to even want to start. So you always have to remember to have the motivation, or I don't even say the motivation, but you have to have that agreement with yourself to just dive right in, whatever it might be. So if you find yourself losing motivation, if you can just get started and just dive right in, that could save you a lot of issues right there, because you might jump right in and then all of a sudden the brain starts moving and the juices start flowing and you find yourself getting all of these crazy ideas. I guess it'd be awesome ideas, is probably a better term to use, but you find yourself getting all these awesome ideas for this project, and you end up creating something great, where if you didn't jump in at all, you didn't get your mind moving, and now you put it off another day, and then tomorrow you might not have the same ideas you had today, type of thing. So it could change everything. But whatever you do, just jump right in and make sure you take action regardless of what it is. Number 4 would be to cut holes in your project. So we often procrastinate because we feel intimidated by the size of the project. So if you break down the project into sections, puzzle pieces, whatever it is, however you like to look at it, this will minimize the intimidation of the project. So usually if you're looking at the end game, again, if you've listened to previous episodes of the podcast, one of the things that I talk about is look at the end game, have goals set. And those goals are increments of the final project, and then that way you're capable of tracking the progress as you go. So, you might have 10 steps between, from beginning to end, and then as you go, you're tracking your progress, and you could say, cool, I got 10 steps, I'm at step number 7, I'm almost there, rather than being like, man, I got to get all the way to here, to the end of the project, and it might look like a huge mountain to climb when you're in the moment. So cut holes in your project, not cut holes or cut projects into your holes, but just make sure that you break things down. It might make it easier for you to tackle little pieces at a time rather than one giant piece. It's almost like that saying, how do you eat an elephant? And everybody's like, oh, with a fork? No, it's one bite at a time. Regardless of whatever it is that you're eating, if you eat it one bite at a time, you'll eventually get to the end. So just remember to cut holes in the project, take it one step at a time, and you'll get to the end eventually, as long as you dive in regardless and get started. And make sure, too, you work in the right environment. That's step number 5. So work in the right environment. If you do everything else right, but you put yourself in the wrong environment, it could end up being a catastrophe at the end of the day. So if you find yourself in an environment that's distracting, like, if you're like me and, there's musical instruments in the room, or I'm big into photography and cameras and computers and stuff like that. I'm a big electronics type guy, but you put me in a room like that, and then you're like, all right, finish a project about this, and then I find out that I could be doing something else, with like an instrument in the room, like it's game over for me. So that ends up being something that'll help me procrastinate, which isn't good. So make sure that you put yourself in an environment where you're not going to be surrounding yourself with distractions, or giving yourself an excuse to get distracted. So that would be the 5th step. And the number 6 is enjoy small victories. So that kind of goes and ties in to step number 4 with the cutting the holes in the project and taking little bite-sized pieces. But as you tackle each individual piece, and you break it down into steps, and you accomplish step 1 out of 10, or step 1 out of 20, or step 1 out of 5, celebrate those victories, enjoy them, and be like, man, I'm, a fifth of the way there, I'm halfway there, I'm 3/4 of the way there, whatever it is. But enjoy those, soak those up, and take them in, because that will kind of boost you up a little bit, pick you up, and make you feel motivated to keep going when you need to go to step 2, step 3, step 4, etc., all the way down. So it's, I don't know if you guys have ever had those moments. I'm sure you all have, but where you've done something that you might have maybe not believed 100% that you could do, or I want to say could do, like you probably had the potential to do it, but that you could finish just because you're like, man, that seems like a long ways away, and then you complete it and it just feels so amazing. Those are one of those things where you want to be able to enjoy that, because there's nothing wrong with enjoying a victory. So when you do enjoy that, it kind of, it gives you a nice, like, you're walking, proud and excited. And so those are things that you should be proud of. So enjoy those victories and keep them, use them to keep your head up and keep you going. The seventh step to overcoming procrastination is to, what I like to say is just get real. Whatever it is, get real. And what I mean by that is don't set unrealistic goals for yourself, things that you know in your mind 100% that you won't be able to achieve. So when if you set unrealistic goals for yourself, you're setting yourself up to procrastinate, because in your mind, there's no way I can get this done, but you have this goal that you spoke out to all friends, family, coworkers, the supervisor, owner, president, whatever it might be, and you're like, yeah, I can get that done, and then you're like, man, what did I just get myself into? And then you can't get it done. That's setting yourself up for procrastination. So try not to allow yourself to do that. Make sure that you set realistic goals. Know what it is that you're capable of. I think that's the biggest thing, is know yourself. Know what it is that you can do and that you're capable of, because if you set unrealistic goals for yourself, you're ultimately setting yourself up for failure. And then number 8 would be to take control of your self-talk. Say to yourself, I'm not going to procrastinate. I will not procrastinate. I guess I should say you shouldn't say that, but, because, again, this is kind of like a 50-50 thing. So if you are telling yourself, I will not procrastinate, but you don't believe it, then you're ultimately going to set yourself up for procrastination. Because if if you speak out like, I will not procrastinate, but in your mind you're like, yeah, but man, I really don't want to do this, it's going to cancel itself out and you ultimately procrastinate anyways. So if you take the ability to, again, this kind of ties in with the last one, but if you take into account and knowing yourself and your strengths and what you're good at, and setting realistic goals for yourself, and then you can believe in yourself to complete those goals, that will ultimately set you up for accomplishing what it is that you want. So make sure that you set realistic goals for yourself, and then of course you believe in those goals that you're setting for yourself. And then so we have number 9, and number 9 is to don't be a perfectionist. So, for example, when I wrote my book, I still think that there's probably a bunch of typos in there. I'm not sure. I've had some people, mention like, is this the way that this is supposed to be? Is there supposed to be a comma here, a comma there, whatever it is? But at the end of the day, all I care about with my book is that people get the message. Same thing with this podcast. I might not be the best at speaking, but at the end of the day, if you're getting the message, that's all that matters, at least to me. Some people might be totally put off because my grammar might be poor, or my English might be poor, or they might hate the sound of my voice, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, if you're getting the message and it's inspiring you to do something better, that's all that matters. I'm not perfect by any means, and it kind of sucks because I'm sort of a perfectionist. I like when things are a certain way, and so when I do a project and I have something that might not be off, like when I do something in Photoshop, for example, and I'm just trying to manipulate this photo, and then there's one little piece that's not right, I might bring my wife over and be like, I might ask her, like, what do you think about this? Do you think anybody will notice? And then she'll be like, I didn't even know that you were talking about it until you pointed it out. But in my mind, it's all I see. And then I'm like, no, I got to work on it. I got to work on it and get it, taken care of. When in the real world, somebody might not have noticed. So at the end of the day, being a perfectionist might delay it and might get you discouraged a little bit and cause you to procrastinate. So, there's a degree of perfection that you can strive for. You should always strive for perfect. But at the end of the day, you should know that perfection in most cases is usually unattainable. So you need to make sure that when you're setting your goals for yourself and you're being real with yourself and honest with yourself and believing in them, that you're also taking into account that perfection might not be attainable, but you need to at least push forward and make things happen. So that'll lead us to number 10, which is focus on the results. So an example that I like to use is most people don't like going to the dentist. At least not many people do. I know that I don't. I'm not a big fan of the dentist, but a good question to kind of ask is, why do people go if they don't like going to the dentist? And the reason being is, well, because you get good results. You get pretty teeth, clean teeth, whatever it might be. You get your cavity filled that was bugging you, something like that. But your dentist is good at making your teeth and gums healthier, not healthier, but healthier and more appealing. You also go because of the pain of having somebody pick at your teeth for an hour is nowhere near the pain of getting a cavity filled, a tooth pulled, or a root canal. I've had all, I think, but a tooth being pulled, and I can tell you that a root canal sucks. It hurts really bad, and getting a cavity filled, depending on the dentist, sucks. So the reason that I have been going to the dentist proactively is to avoid all of that. So anything that you do when it comes to a project, you need to focus on the results, the end game. But of course, that also ties into the previous steps, but setting the goals to get there. But when you focus on the results, that will allow you to come up with a plan of attack and allow you to focus on giving your best efforts towards doing whatever it is that you need to do. So when you have the results in mind, it'll ultimately lead you to most likely your best work as you take on each of these projects or these tasks or whatever it is that you have to do. So that would be 10. And then number 11 is kind of one of those, whatever cliche things, but it's forgive yourself. If you do slip up and procrastinate, don't beat yourself up for it. It's okay. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, everybody procrastinates, and that's 100% okay. It's going to happen. But you can't beat yourself up if it does. You just have to know that going forward, as you're going to try and be better. You always want to be a better version of yourself than you were yesterday. And then the same thing when you go tomorrow. You want to be a better version of yourself than you were today. And so, if you're tasked with another project tomorrow and you find, you're like, man, I really procrastinated today and I didn't get it done. Tomorrow, go forward, dive right in and make sure you complete it and, make it happen. And then if you find out that you procrastinate again sometime in the future, that's okay. Forgive yourself for doing it. It happens to everybody, and it's not the end of the world if you procrastinate. Just remember that. But other than that, guys, that's really all I have for you today. I want to make sure that you guys are getting a positive message with this. I want to make sure that you're not procrastinating, you're not feeling beat down. And I'm trying to make sure that, if you get presented with a project, that you have the tools it takes to succeed and complete that project and not feel like, man, like I can't seem to get these projects done. I can't seem to make this happen. So I hope that you could use these 11 tips that I've given you to overcome and beat procrastination, because at the end of the day, if you can use these tools and even just get one more project done, I feel like that'll be a win for you, and it'll be a big step forward for you. But other than that, if you guys enjoyed the show and you want to take a look at the show notes, take a look at my website. It's www.spencerkeife.com/11 for this particular episode. And just so you know, for every other episode in the past and every episode going forward, it'll be the same thing. So it'll be spencerkeife.com/episode number. And so, I have it so far back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on. So as we go forward, if you want to take a look at the show notes or any special links associated with it, the video that's linked to YouTube, just go ahead and go to spencerkeife.com for this one. Do spencerkeife.com/12, I believe is what this one is. I'm sorry, I can't remember, but go ahead and do that, and that will get you right there, and you guys can go forward. But other than that, that's like the third time I've said that. I'm sorry. Go forward, shift gears, and live the most positive, happy, and abundant life you can. Thank you all for your time today, and you have yourselves a wonderful day. Go out there, take action, and don't procrastinate. Have a good one.